probably think you're doing fine with money. You're working, you're earning something. You're not reckless, so it feels like you're on track. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't become broke from bad decisions. They become broke from delayed decisions. Not losing money, just postponing the things that would have built it. And that's the trap. Because from the outside, your life still looks normal. But inside the system, you're quietly falling behind every single month. Let's make this real. Imagine two people. Both earn the same income. Both want financial freedom. But one of them acts now. The other says, I'll start next month. 1 year later, the gap is small. 5 years later, it's life-changing. And 10 years later, they don't live in the same financial reality anymore. This video is about those invisible delays, the small actions you keep postponing that are silently costing you your future wealth. And by the end, you'll realize something uncomfortable. You don't have a money problem. You have a timing problem. Let's start. 1. Delaying your first real financial system. Most people think budgeting is optional. They say, I already know what I spend. But knowing is not controlling. So here's where the delay begins. You keep telling yourself you'll organize finances later, when things get less busy, when income becomes stable, when life slows down. But it never does. So instead of a system, you operate on memory, and memory is expensive. Because without structure, you underestimate spending. You ignore leaks. You rely on guessing. And here's the psychological trap. It feels flexible, but it's actually chaos disguised as freedom. Now the shift. A financial system isn't about restriction. It's about visibility. Because what you can see, you can control. What you ignore controls you. So the delay is not in budgeting. It's in accepting that your money needs structure before it needs growth. And if you don't build that structure early, everything else leaks, which leads to the next mistake. 2. Delaying investing because it's not enough yet. This is one of the most expensive beliefs in personal finance. I'll start investing when I have more money. Sounds logical, right? But here's the problem. Investing is not about amount. It's about time. And delaying it doesn't just postpone growth. It removes compounding from your early years. Let's simplify it. 2 people. Person A starts small today. Person B waits 5 years. Even if person B invests more later, they are still behind. Not because of effort, because of time. Now the psychological layer. Waiting feels responsible. But it's actually fear wearing logic as a mask. Fear of doing it wrong. Fear of losing money. Fear of not being ready. So instead of starting small and learning, you stay safe and remain static. And here's the truth. In investing, being early matters more than being perfect. Because time fixes imperfection. But time cannot fix delay. Which brings us forward. 3. Delaying increasing your income skills. Most people focus on saving. Very few focus on earning capacity. And even fewer act early. They say, I'll learn a high-income skill later. When life is less busy, when motivation comes back, when things feel stable. But here's what actually happens. Time passes, expenses grow, responsibilities increase, and suddenly, learning becomes harder. Now the shift. Income is not just effort. It's leverage. Skills like sales, writing, editing, analytics, coding. These don't just increase money, they increase options. But delaying skill building creates a hidden cost. You stay dependent on your current income ceiling, and that ceiling becomes your life. So it's not about learning everything. It's about starting before you feel ready, because readiness is never real. It's just comfort delaying change, and that leads to something deeper. 4. Delaying financial tracking because it's too small to matter. This is subtle. People don't track money when it's small. They say, it's just a few dollars. It's not significant yet. I'll track it when I earn more. But here's the contradiction. Small money habits decide large money outcomes. Because tracking is not about money. It's about awareness. Without tracking, spending expands unnoticed. Small leaks become habits. Financial behavior stays unconscious. And unconscious behavior never scales well. Now the psychological layer. Avoiding tracking feels relaxed, but it creates blind control. You think you're managing money, but you're reacting to it. And here's the shift. Wealth is not built when income rises. It's built when awareness rises first. Because awareness changes behavior, and behavior changes everything. Now we go deeper. 5. Delaying cutting expenses that don't feel serious. This is where most people get stuck. They see small expenses and ignore them. Subscriptions, impulse food, convenience spending, lifestyle upgrades. And they say, it's not that much. And they're right. individually. But financially, the danger is not the size. It's the permanence. Because small expenses don't stay small. They multiply quietly. Now the psychological layer. Cutting expenses feels like loss. So the brain resists it, even when logically it makes sense. Because identity is attached to comfort. I deserve this. I've worked hard. It's not hurting anyone. But here's the truth. You don't feel the impact now. You feel it in 10 years, when compounding never had space to grow. So the shift is simple. Wealth is not what you earn. It's what you stop leaking. And most leaks are emotional, not financial. Now we move forward. 6. Delaying building an emergency buffer. This one feels boring, so people delay it. They think, I'll build savings later. But life doesn't wait. Unexpected expenses don't wait. And when there is no buffer, every problem becomes a crisis. Now the psychological layer. Without a buffer, you are always reactive. 1. Emergency forces. Debt. Stress. Bad decisions. Selling future stability for present survival. And here's the contradiction. People think saving is about future security, but it actually protects present stability. So delaying it doesn't just hurt future you. It increases pressure on current you. And pressure leads to poor financial decisions, which leads to the next delay. 7. Delaying saying no to social financial pressure. This is one of the most invisible wealth killers. You delay. Saying no to outings. Saying no to upgrades. Saying no to expectations because you don't want to feel behind socially. So you keep up appearances. But here's the hidden cost. You are funding perception with future stability. Now the psychological layer. Social pressure doesn't ask for money. It demands identity. You don't want to look less successful, so you spend to maintain an illusion. But the illusion is expensive, and it compounds quietly, because every yes to others is often a no to your future self. Now we go deeper. 8. Delaying long-term thinking, because short-term feels more real. Most people understand long-term goals, but they don't act on them. Why? Because the future doesn't feel urgent. So they optimize for this month, this paycheck, this situation, not the next 5 to 10 years. Now the psychological layer. The brain prefers immediate reward over delayed reward, so even good financial intentions get postponed. And that's how people stay stuck. Not from ignorance, from timing bias. They know what to do. They just don't feel the urgency today. But wealth is not built in urgency. It is built in consistency across time, which leads us to the midpoint. You thought this was about money. It's not. It's about how you think about time. Because every delay is not just a financial decision. It's an identity decision. You are either someone who acts early or someone who always prepares to act later. And that difference compounds more than income ever will. Because money doesn't define your future, your timing does. Now let's continue. 9. Delaying financial clarity because it's complicated. Many people avoid understanding money deeply. They say, it's too complex. I'll figure it out later. I need someone to explain it properly. But here's the truth. It's not complicated. It's just unfamiliar. And unfamiliar feels uncomfortable. So people delay learning. Now the psychological layer. Avoidance creates dependence. If you don't understand your money, someone else will manage it for you. And that removes control. So delay becomes delegation. And delegation becomes limitation. Because you cannot build wealth in systems you don't understand. Now the final escalation. 10. Delaying decisions that require discomfort today. This is the root of everything. Every financial improvement requires discomfort. Learning, cutting, tracking, starting, changing. But most people delay discomfort. They choose, I'll do it when I feel ready. But readiness never comes. Because readiness is not a feeling. It's a result of action. Now the psychological collapse. Every delay is a trade. You are trading today's discomfort for tomorrow's limitation. And most people don't see the trade happening. They just see time passing. Now zoom out. This is not about money mistakes. It's about postponed identity shifts. If you look closely, nothing in this video was extreme. No risky behavior, no financial disasters, no obvious mistakes. Just delays. Small ones, repeated over time. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because you don't feel it happening. You just wake up one day and realize people who started earlier are no longer in your financial category. And the uncomfortable truth is this. You are not behind because of what you did. You are behind because of what you delayed. But this isn't the biggest problem. The next layer is worse, because some delays don't just cost money, they shape who you become while waiting. And once that identity locks in, fixing money becomes harder than earning it ever was.